It always comes to this. More nice. Hello there guys, here's another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I had showed off my fresh Blackout head tattoo. It's all healed up now, and I couldn't be much happier with the result, honestly. It's kind of complicated, but it didn't heal super dark black. There are some spots where it's really spotty. You can see here in the front, there's also some spots on the side. It's better on this side than it is over here. And believe it or not, that is the desired result. I may or may not have mentioned it. I believe I mentioned it, but in the session, or before the session, I told Terry, since we're going to be covering this like right away, more or less, I don't really want to pack it super solid black. Let's get it black. You know, cover what was there, but since we're going to be covering it again, theoretically, immediately, we're really just bulldozing. So, Blackout for the purpose of cover-up, which is kind of a revolutionary theory or thought process where most people would assume that when you black something out, that's the end, whereas in our case, it is literally just a means to a beginning. And when we do it, we're almost obnoxious to what was there, or ignorant or indifferent to what was there. We're basically blazing a path to do whatever we want. The reason why it's easier to do this theoretically over black than it would be normally as a cover-up is because here we're working from one consistent tone. Where there is a few weak spots, it's all black to a large degree. And so, whereas if you were covering negative space and black, your red or your black or your white, whatever, would all be different values or different tones, and you're not working from the same flat base that you are when you have a whole black canvas. You can essentially treat the blackout as negative space or non-tattooed skin for the new tattoo you're building over top of it. I will put in here what we're planning on doing. We're actually planning on doing a crown of thorns. Not for the purposes that some people would maybe assume, but I've always kind of thought that was a cool look. I sort of had like a authority circlet before anyway, but this will just be a more deliberate approach to that idea. And it's going to tie in really well to the thorns on my neck and the thorns on my arm. So yeah, that's coming up here. We're going to probably... I enjoy tattoo science, so I told Terry, with how it healed, we could probably cover this within 3 weeks. I've never covered something that quick, so it's not like, oh, I have to do this right now, I can't live with this. Even if I did dislike the way it looked, if I really thought it wouldn't work, I would simply wear a hat for a while the black was settling. But because it came out the right tone to where it looks like it's fairly settled already, and to some degree head tattoos do that anyway, I'll talk more about that in a minute, I think we can get a darker black over that already, or at least a different shade of black over that, and then white, just like we did with the roses and the thorns. And I think we can make it fairly convincing overnight. In the negative space of the black that we don't tattoo the thorns, it will be done, of course, with the red velvet like everything else has been done. And so it will tie the head and the neck together. I plan on doing some thorns up the side of my head where we blacked out as well. Some underneath the script, some over top of the script, and then the script will all get relined on the side of my head, so it will be crisper. I did think about blacking out the script and doing it over with white on black, but I don't know how clear that would be, because because he would need to border it, and then it would be pretty thick. And while that's still an option, for now I'm just going to reline the script and go with it. These script tattoos are some of the most important tattoos I have. One being for my mother and one being for my father. I believe I've told the story of those already on here, but if not, I can probably get into that another time. Head tattoos do tend to lighten up quite a bit. This will be the second time that I'm touching this guy up. I've had him since 2017, and I've shaved my head bald, I believe, 3 times since I got him. The last time I shaved, he didn't need a touch-up, but the time before that he did, and now I feel like he does again. So I think we're going to go even darker with him. I don't really want to change him much, but I do want him quite a bit darker so that he stands out better long term. I think get rid of the gray wash altogether. No gray wash up there, just black wash, and probably use Panthera and go real dark if he's going to stay. Obviously, you can't see this as well as I would like right now, and it is still a little milky from healing. I've got to shave my head. Probably going to do that in a couple days. Typically when I get something tattooed, say on my face or my neck, or in this instance my head, I'll wait over a week before I shave again. Some people will say that I shave too soon, but I don't really think it makes a difference. I think once the surface is free of any scabs or flakes or whatever, I think you're pretty well clear to, or sensitivity for that matter, I think you're pretty well clear to shave again. And so I'm going to be doing a lot of work on my head fairly quickly, rapidly, and I'll be shaving more or less once a week. And I plan on doing that probably for the next few months because, like I said, I'm going to be getting a lot of work done on my head. So more or less, I plan on doing rapid sessions on my head. I've got one coming up. I'm going to be working on the bat this week with Rick. And then 2 weeks from now, I will be doing the thorns and maybe some red that day. I've got another session on the back of my head. So my head's going to be pretty well getting worked on nonstop. Anyway, now we're 7 minutes in here, and I could still keep going on this. I had a session with Rick. We did the inner bicep and some of my ditch. It doesn't look like we got a whole lot done, but we did quite a bit. It was about 3 hours, and some of these lines were a little bit shakier than we wanted them to be, so Rick did redo some of them. That will happen down here as we get down there too. There's some lines that were pretty bold, and when you do a bold line, sometimes it's hard to make sure that the line is super solid. So just redoing some of the lines as we go. All of this stuff is healing up really well though, so no problem with that. I think some of this stuff, when we go to do the white, may need a touch up in the black, but it's doing really well. I will say that it was going real slow when we were on my inner bicep, like real slow. That was the slowest it's been on this. I've got a lot of scar tissue in my inner bicep. The session hurt quite a bit more than the rest of these sessions have so far, and it took quite a while to saturate too. I've talked about it before, but I had the spawn face on my inner bicep here, and it was pretty caked in scar tissue. In some light, you could see Spawn's entire face outline and his eyes pretty clearly through the black, and it had been blacked out many times. I believe I have somewhere around 20 layers on my arms overall, both of them, and this inner bicep is probably the most scarred up of anything other than my right hand. So getting it in was challenging and time consuming, and this is the first time I've been really sore after a tattoo session in a long time. I'm not typically sore enough to where I'm still feeling it the next couple days very often, but here we are a day and a half later, and it still feels like I have sunburn or road rash or something, and the tissue is in general fairly sensitive. That being said, I've had a bit of dry skin on the inside of my arm here for a while, so I'm not exactly sure how that's going to heal. We'll see. I'm hoping for a good result, but I'm not overly positive that this is going to be a perfect heal, just based on the fact that I'm still feeling some pain there, and the tissue is fairly dry. I don't over lotion my tattoos ever. I'm a twice a day guy. I've gone over that in some aftercare videos on here. I'm not concerned with infection or anything like that, or overworked or scabs or anything like that. I just think that the more painful the tattoo is, usually the worse it will heal too, it seems, in my experience. So, and that being said, I mean, I've had this inner bicep here worked on several times, even just over the last few months, and there wasn't that kind of pain, and it's not as dry as this is right now. That being said, Rick is doing a lot more detail in these things than Terry was, and whenever you're using smaller mags and working the skin for longer, you do get that result. If you're using big mags, generally, if you know what you're doing, you're causing less damage to the area because you're moving faster and you're putting the skin through less trauma overall. Whereas in here, you can see and hear all these little tiny details, and keeping in mind that some of those took multiple passes over before the black would get in. So yeah, it's not real easy to saturate over scar tissue. Particularly to do overly detailed work like that is a bit of a trick. So anyway, with that, I do like how the arm is looking. Having this inner bicep part done, when my arm is resting, it looks like more of a sleeve already. And yeah, it's kind of a nice, complete, at least half sleeve. The lower arm still has more work to do, but all of this stuff is healed. So obviously, when you're doing projects like this, some parts are going to be better than others, especially when you're still working on them. So there's still a lot to work on here and a lot to do, but we're getting there. This color is still holding up really, really well. The people who were curious how that would be doing, that's now, I believe, 3 weeks. So it's looking good. I have a session with Terry tomorrow. I'll be showing that off here. Tomorrow I'll hopefully be making a video about that. And I'm not expecting as much pain in that session either, but I do expect it to be about as long or longer. We are finally going to be doing the reline of the thorns like we did of the roses, except the thorns are going to be a bit of a thinner line, more like what we have on the inside of the petals here for the leaves. So yeah, that'll be a good time, and I'll be showing that off again shortly. So I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.